What's up, my people, and welcome back to another episode of Tyler Buys Houses. So I've taken the occasion to talk to you about a lot of my fails lately, and I'm going to do a better job at talking to you about a win that we recently had. And actually, this was, to date, the single largest win I've had in the company. So let's talk about a house and how creative financing can work for you. All right, what is creative financing and how can it work for you? Well, let's explain what creative financing is first, because I was really scared of this term for like the first 3 years of my business, and people were doing this all around me, but I didn't understand it, so let me help educate you. When I buy a house from someone who is willing to give me a note at the closing, they don't get cash at the closing, they get a mortgage. So what we simultaneously do is that seller on the property, if they are going to be our seller financee, we are going to go from having them be a seller to a lender all at the same closing. Instead of getting cash, they get a mortgage. We start paying them back on their mortgage monthly, and then there's an agreed upon end game with the note, what the down payment is, the interest, all of that. They go from being a seller to being a bank. You follow? Okay, cool. Let's talk about how we used this in a house. 2019, I bought a house that it was a mid-entry, nothing super fancy, but it was a really nice house for the area, and it was in a really good area. Just a solid house. It wasn't super updated, but it wasn't super outdated. So we bought it in 2019 for $135,000 seller financing. And I believe that the seller is the one who actually mentioned financing the house to me. I bought it with $5,000 down, $135,000 sales price. So he financed me $130,000 at closing. We agreed on a 4% interest rate with a 20-year note, but it had a 5-year balloon, meaning whatever the balance was of that note at the end of year 5, it was due all in one lump payment, a balloon payment. So keep that in mind. It basically means I had 5 years to either refinance him out or resell the house. The monthly payment was $788. So this is where it gets interesting. We buy this house from him, and then I sell the house on a land contract. So almost same day. I believe the next day we closed on the land contract sale. We sold the house on land contract for $180,000, $7,500 down, 8% interest with a 30-year note. And keep in mind, we had a 20-year note with our seller. We had a 30-year note with our buyer. You always want to have the note with a buyer if you're doing these deals. Some people call this a wrap. You always want to have your note on the back end longer than your note on the front end. So, what is land contract? Well, land contract is contract for deed. It means rent to own is the common trait or term in our market as people ask if you will rent to own the house. It means if you fulfill the contract, then you get a deed. It's a land contract. So we made a bunch of money just building that spread, right? Sold it at $180, $7,500 down. And quick side note, the $5,000 down that I paid the seller at closing came from the $7,500 down on the land contract sale that happened simultaneously. So yes, you can get into real estate for no money and no credit, because we did it here. I had credit and had money, but this was a cool structure. Monthly payment on the land contract was $1,266. And that was escrow with our taxes and insurance. That's what the land contract buyer was paying us. And then, like I said, $788 with our seller on the seller financing note. So fast forward, life's good. We are getting our monthly payment from the land contract buyer. They've made some improvements to the house. Life is good. We're making monthly money on the interest and on the principal. Well, they contact me, the buyers, and say that they found a house they've fallen in love with. They want to move and have a mini farm, and city life just isn't for them. So we talked about what happens with this land contract. They asked if they could just get out of it, or what would be the process to relinquish the note, or whatever. And I said, honestly, you guys owe me, at that time was about $170,000. If you keep in mind, they bought it for $180, they put $7,500 down, and then they had been making payments. So principal was about $170,000. I told them, with whatever improvements you've made to the house, you're willing to sell the house. You can do that. You just have to pay us that balance, and whatever you sell the house for above and beyond that, you can keep. So they contacted an agent, someone I actually know, very good agent, and that agent, this is now 2021, the market is insanely hot. That agent said the house could be listed for $249,900, $250. Sold it to them for $180. So lots of spread right there, but also lots of spread for me because I only owed my seller like $120 on the whole thing. So I was fine. They put the house up on the market and it sells, goes under contract very quickly, I should say. It does not sell, goes under contract very quickly. Multiple offers, 10 showings. You know, you've probably heard about the chaos in real estate at this time frame. And it was a great product in a great neighborhood. Well, this is where the story starts to get interesting. So they have a home inspection, like everyone usually does. There were some issues on the home inspection that came back, and unfortunately, they couldn't afford to repair the house or make those repairs, and they lost the contract. So at that time, I mean, I've been monitoring what's going on. I'm here to help them, if, you know, any way I can. The agent reaches out to me, you know, here's what's going on. Because technically I'm the seller, I'm the one on the deed. I'm just allowing them to do this, so I had to be notified of the process. I talked to these land contract buyers and said, hey, you know, if you want to just relinquish your hands of this contract, they had already found a house they'd fallen in love with. I'll offer you $20,000 for the repairs, you know, the updates you've made to the house, and we'll just rip up the contract. And they actually took it. To my surprise, they took that offer. So I paid them 20 grand for me to get the house back. Not common, but think about how much money was there in this deal, and that's why I did it. So we took the house back. Then what? Well, the home inspection repair list that they had gotten from their would-be buyer in that transaction, we actually just used that as, you know, the syllabus or whatever for us to work off of. That's what we used to fix the house. We made about 5,000 repairs to the house, minor details, listed it at $249,900, and you guessed it, we sold it for $250,000. I think there was a home warranty in there or something small, but we sold it quick. So this is how we came about one of the single largest profits in the company that I've ever done, was in a house that I bought on creative financing, sold on creative sales terms, bought back because I'm using a creative head and could see that there's, you know, an opportunity here, put $5,000 in repairs in the house, and then sold the house for $250,000. We netted, and this does not include any money we made during this land contract period where we made money on the interest and any of that. We netted $118,785 in that sale. So if you back up to the beginning, what are the takeaways here? Well, I literally bought this house without my own credit from a seller who didn't have a mortgage with $5,000 down that I borrowed from the land contract buyer who gave me $7,500 down before we actually allowed them to move in, right? We got the money early. Went to closing with that, gave him his money down. I probably even paid for the closing costs out of the difference. Bought this house. I have a deed now. My seller has a deed of trust. They are the mortgage now. They are the bank. And then we turn around, 2 years rolls forward, we sell the house, and we make one of our single largest profits. So I will tell you, if you're watching this, you can get in real estate with no money down. And you can do deals like this. You've got to be creative. This is how creative financing can work for you. Comment below if you've got more questions. I'd love to break down the process of how creative financing works, or how these, you know, the fine nuances of the details happen and how that works for you or how it matters. But as always, if you've enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when the next Chaos from Tyler Buys Houses comes out. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next one.